let's talk about the food that's in season for the next 2 weeks, which that means it's kind of the 17th of March for the next 2 weeks, roughly, because there's no kind of like exact timings to this. It's like a gradual phase in and a gradual phase out. But if you have an understanding of what the foods are helping you with, you can kind of lean into kind of getting that support in your life, because there is a reason when you follow the foods that are in season and you follow them through the year, you start to realize that they each have a purpose. They all have a purpose. And that's actually, it's quite interesting. My hair's really annoying me. So it's really interesting to follow through, to understand, so that you can really focus your intention on these particular foods that are around at the moment. So right now we're stepping into the spring fresh threshold. Got all my notes here. So that is a move away from kind of storage and that kind of thing into freshness. Okay, so things like, there's been stuff that's been stored since autumn, so things like squashes, stuff like that, it's been hanging on in there, it's been stored in darkness, stuff like that. So we're moving from that into freshness. We're moving from dense food into alive food, and we're moving from kind of like a holding energy into a gently rising energy. Okay, so greens are now leading the way. That is where we need to be focusing our attention. So we should really be making our plate 60% greens if we can. So we're talking about things like purple sprouting broccoli, spring greens, spinach, watercress, wild garlic, chard, kale still hanging around. This is like your circulation food, okay? And what that's doing is, really, it's helping the body to wake up. It's helping the body to move into spring. The greens are actually this like awakening mechanism for the body. Okay, they're bitter, they're alive, they're mineral rich. They do things like they stimulate the bile production, which helps support digestion. We're waking the digestion up. The digestion's been really sluggish over winter, so we're starting to wake it up, okay? So these greens, they support liver, the liver detox pathways, so they're gonna help you kind of clear out that winter buildup. They increase enzyme activity, which again helps wake up that digestion. And they are full of chlorophyll, which is all about supporting blood oxygenation. So you can really feel that kind of, the greens are really coming through and really starting to support us get over our slower metabolism that we move into in the winter. So we're now in that transition. We're transitioning from that winter slow metabolism into this kind of like lighter kind of metabolism that's going to help us through the summer. Okay, so yeah, so roots are still around and they should still be part of your kind of diet. So if you're looking at your veggies, your plate, and you're looking at kind of vegetables and things like that, you're kind of looking at 60% greens, 30% roots now. So roots were the focus over winter. A lot of kind of those root vegetable stews and things like that. Now we're kind of weaning them off. We're like I said, it's kind of a phasing in and a phasing out, and we're phasing out these roots and we're bringing in these greens right now. So your roots that are still around are things like carrots, parsnip, beetroot, swede, celeriac, just your normal kind of roots that are around at the moment. And these are they're still grounding the system. They're still holding the system safe, stabilizing it and reducing cortisol spikes. The body's no longer hibernating. It doesn't need that kind of like slow burn fuel, which is kind of what the roots are. So the body does want at the moment this lighter digestion, more movement, more micronutrients. So really focusing on those kind of roots is going to help. Your alliums, still getting used to kind of like chatting about this stuff. So your things like your leeks, your onions, your garlic, your spring onions, they're around at the moment. They're easing their way into our diet as well. And they're going to really help immunity and gut health too. Did I say anything about wild garlic? Wild garlic is amazing. And when it comes into season, it doesn't last in season very long. So if you spot any wild garlic around right now, grab it and run. Grab it and run. So there are fruits around, but fruits are really kind of like seasonally. They're not kind of like, I mean, obviously you go to the supermarket and you can have anything you want, but fruit wise, we're still keeping that blood sugar quite low. So fruits are actually minimal because the body's still really sensitive to sugar, or it should be at this time of the year. And we're also trying to get like the gut's microbiome is going through a recalibration as well. So we don't want a load of sugar and stuff kind of slowing the body down right now. So that's why if you look around fruit wise, we're talking apples, we're talking pears, we're talking some forced rhubarb, but there really isn't much more than that around seasonally at the moment. And this is just helping the body, just literally it's going through a recalibration. There's more light, with spring equinoxes on Friday, Saturday. The body just wants to start to wake up. We're moving out of that hibernation. We're not there yet, but we're moving out of it. So off the back of that, obviously we've got things around as well. Mushrooms, okay, seasonally or not, mushrooms are always a staple part of my diet. Herbs really bring life force. So if you can get real live herbs, ones in a plant pot. If you can't get that, then get the chopped ones. And if you can't get that, go down to the freeze dried ones, because they are just full of life force. So adding those into your food wherever you can is just amazing. Out of that, we've got parsley, we've got thyme, we've got rosemary, we've got some early chives coming through right now, and mint is just starting to get going. So obviously as we move into the next couple of months, we're going to move into kind of like minted lamb with leeks and asparagus, and all that kind of energy is going to start coming through soon. This is just the taster. We're just getting kind of easing into it. So how do I work with that? Because that's then the question that I always get asked is, I have some staples in my kind of my diet, but for focusing on a main meal, my main meals are, for want of a better way of wording it, warm salads, tray bakes. I'm creating like a warm salad. So obviously what I'm looking at when I'm doing this is that I'm moving away from like that warm salad being like a roasted tray bake. Now I'm going to be moving into a lot more green leaves and the kind of the roasted carrots or the roasted beetroot kind of being like a side to the main dish. So that's kind of how I kind of, utilize this information. Do I not eat things that are out of season? No, not necessarily, but I eat less of it. I try and really focus my meal plan and my menu plan on that, and, add the few extras here and there. So I lead a predominantly plant-based diet, and I say predominantly, I'm not a vegan and I do eat meat, but meat is a special occasion for me. It's not the main event every single night. So I will have a steak on a Saturday night. I will have a Sunday roast on a Sunday, but it makes them so much more special when you don't eat lots of meat during the week. I have a protein grain. So I have a selection of grains that I mix together, which is my protein base. I make sure I have that with every meal. I eat a lot of hummus around this. I work with a lot of leftovers to make sure that I've got meals for the next day. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So I drop in here roughly every 2 weeks to give you a bit of a feel for the food. I did intend to do it every week, but really it doesn't shift that quickly. So by doing it every 2 weeks, I can bring in the new things. I don't think we were talking greens on the last one. That I think maybe purple sprouting broccoli was around. But now we've got a shift that we can work with, rather than just kind of like a little bit of, repetitive stuff. So if you kind of want to lean into that with me, then just hang around here, and every 2 weeks I will be in telling you about what's shifting, why it's supporting your body at this time of year, because the foods really do support us in the seasonal shifts, which as someone who lives seasonally, seasonal living, can't think how the wording is, I'm the energy-led woman, so I use energy to lead my life, so this is just part of that. See you later.